Hi, it's me, Vicky Marie. And good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are in this crazy world we're living in. Now, we've had quite a week of justice, haven't we, this week? Oh, for anyone who doesn't, if you're watching my channel for the first time, if you don't know me, my name's Vicky Marie. I'm in Spain, in mainland Spain, based in Spain, and I cover true crime cases from all over the world, really. So please think about subscribing if you enjoyed this video to see more videos just similar or live streams. So what we're talking about in this video, let me just put a picture up of this very brave lady. So this is Gisèle, and this is an infamous crime that happened to Gisèle, because it turns out over many, many years, her husband, Dominique, he was drugging her and sort of pimping her out, really, to friends, well, anyone really, in the small village in France where they lived. And Gisèle did not know, because Gisèle was being drugged. She knew that she was at the doctor's, she was feeling drowsy all the time, she had a lot of gynecological problems, but she did not realize what was happening to her. And that now this has all come to light. Now, the thing is, not only her husband Dominique was accused, well, he pled guilty, to be honest, to RAP and all the offences. He pled guilty. So, but there are 50 other men from that village that supposedly, well, they're not even allegedly anymore, because they've all now been found guilty, spoiler alert. They had no chance, really, because the thing is, he had pled guilty. So if he'd pled guilty and admitted to everything he did, these men really, they didn't have a leg to stand on, did they, really? And there were also videos of it, because he would video the attacks. Yeah. So it's a horrible case. And Gisèle herself, though, she's been very brave, because she waived anonymity. She could have been anonymous, but if she was anonymous, everybody else would be anonymous as well. So she decided to waive anonymity, to speak up, to be brave. And she's, for that reason, she's sort of received this almost cult status in France, certainly, but all over the world, for, you know, standing up for women that are abused by anyone, by their husband, by anyone. Now, of course, most of the other defendants, apart from her husband, their defense really was they didn't know she was drugged. They thought it was funny, that they thought she was just asleep. Anyway, all sorts of things, but they didn't query it, you know. But there are 50, I think, other defendants. There were 50. That's a lot, isn't it? And it also unearthed other examples of women being drugged by their husbands, and then RAP'd by friends of their husbands, etc., in that same sort of environment. But you know, I'll tell you what, these little villages, they're the worst, because there's nothing to do. There's nothing to do there. So they spend their time doing things like this. Anyway, I don't know how this village is going to recover from it, because I was thinking about the little village where I live. That would be the most mega scandal. What, you know, it's probably a similar type size population as where I live. And if that happened here, it may well be happening here for all we know. I know lots of things that happen in this village. You know, Agatha Christie wasn't far wrong with Miss Marple, St. Mary. You know, people think a lot of things don't happen in little villages. In my little village, I've lived here for just over 25 years. I know about affairs people have had. I know about self-deletions people have done. Robberies, stalking. Honestly, I could literally write a book just about what's happened in this village in the years that I've lived here. And you would drive through my village, you'd just think, oh, it's a lovely little sleepy Spanish village. But there's all sorts going on. And I think dramas are almost amplified in villages because everybody knows each other. I don't know, the men that are involved in this case, 50 men out of a village with a population of only a couple of thousand. It might be a quarter of the village. When I came to live in this village on the actual electoral roll, there was only 1,000 people. There's a bit more than that now, and there probably was other people living here that just weren't on the electoral roll. But do you imagine, out of 1,000 people, 50 of them had done something like this? It's a mass, and that's only the ones that have been caught, really, isn't it? So there's probably more over the years that it happened. It's over 20 years, I think, that this is supposed to have happened. No, it did happen. No, I have to forget now that I need to forget allegedly now. It happened because they've all been found guilty and sentences have been given out. Now, I wanted to come online immediately when I saw that the sentencing was going to be today, but I had classes. So I had to do my Spanish classes. Actually, that's why I've got the Spanish hat on, because last class before Christmas, I think I've only got one class next week. So I have got a week, more or less a week break. And I wore my Spanish class for my last Spanish classes with my last students, if you like, before Christmas. Because they were Zoom students, and, to wish them a Merry Christmas, just have a little bit of fun. So otherwise I would have been on, because we have unfortunately missed the live sentencing, verdicts and sentencing, but I'm going to read you out exactly what happened and how it happened. So as always, thank you so much for being here with me. Thank you for caring about Gisèle. Thank you for caring about women in general, because Gisèle, by making everything public, she's took a lot of stick, as you can imagine, even from other women. You can imagine it's not been easy for her, but she decided to do this, and good for her that she's done it. But anyway, I want to say my thank yous. Thank you for watching, for liking, for subscribing. If you're not subscribed, please consider it. A special thanks, as always, to my members, or to people who gift memberships, people who've bought me a coffee, PayPal me. I've had some very generous help, let's say, over the last week, and it means more to me than you can imagine. And just thank you for your support, because it's funny, isn't it? Because we've had some good justice this week, but of course it is difficult going through cases like the Sarah Sharif case, the Madeleine Kingsbury case, all the details. But the justice, we've had quite a lot of justice. I feel like it's been a December of justice, and now justice again for Gisèle, for a completely different case from Sarah Sharif. All those three cases that we're looking at verdicts and sentencing, and of course the Delphi case will be the next one. We've had the verdict in the Delphi case, but we haven't had the sentencing yet. They're all completely different, aren't they? So we've got Gisèle, who was RAPED'd by her husband, pimped out by him to other men. We've got Sarah Sharif, who was red-rummed by her father, her own father and stepmother, and her uncle participated in it. We've got the Delphi case, which is Richard Allen, who's murdered 2 young teenage girls. And the Madeleine Kingsbury case, where it's her ex-partner, the father of her children. So we've had quite a lot of justice, but they've all been completely different cases, haven't they? So it's interesting, really. But anyway, justice is good, but it is hard going, sort of ploughing through it, the case itself, the cases themselves. But it's all made worthwhile, really, when we get positive verdicts and good sentences. I'm sick of seeing ridiculous sentences. We've seen a couple of pathetic sentences as well, to be honest, or certainly we have seen one particular sentence that was ridiculous. But anyway, we're not going to concentrate on that. We're going to concentrate on the good sentences we've had, on this December of justice that we've had so far. So I'm going to say hello to everyone. As I say, thank you for being here. Thank you for caring about Gisèle. Hi, David. Hi, Laurie. It's only just started, Laurie. Hi, Kelly. Yeah, good Christmas at the courts. I know, Kelly, Sarah has really affected a lot. I've noticed on my... It's funny with Sarah because on my YouTube channel, it hasn't attracted that much attention, which is strange. But on my TikTok account, oh my God, you know, people are all over TikTok talking about it. So Richard Allen hasn't had his sentence yet, Kelly. He'll be the next sentence. I think it's is it this week sometime? Anyway, we will be, as soon as we get Richard Allen's sentencing, I will be letting you know, but he hasn't been sentenced yet. Yeah, for David, it was especially personal. I thought that is because she would have reminded you of your granddaughter, of course. Bless her. Yeah, and it's always worse when it's a child who is so helpless. But do you know what? When a woman is drugged and doesn't even know what's happening to her, the thing is, you trust your husband, don't you? And vice versa. You know, your husband brings you a drink, you'd be like, oh, shall I make you I don't know, whatever, a drinking chocolate, or can I make you fancy a cocktail? Do you want a smoothie? I've heard it so much just lately about people drugging their loved ones. I'm feeling like I wouldn't have a drink unless I'd made it myself. Even if my son made it, I'd be like, not sure about this. You know, because that's the problem with true crime. Once you start following it, you do get a bit suspicious about everything. But, you know, we're talking about a woman. She thought her husband was a loving husband, you know, and I've heard of men, you know, this is not an isolated incident. That's why it's good that she's gone public with it, because it's not the only person it's happened to. It happens all the time, you know, So let's just have a look at some pictures first of all. Kelly, exactly. Dirty John. I did a video about Dirty John. Hi, Heather. Yeah, I did a video about Dirty John. He was another one. And then there was the other murderer. Dirty John was a murderer, or he tried to murder her daughter anyway. There was the guy who murdered the author, that married the author, and he killed her and her little dog and buried them in cesspit under the garage. He drugged her. She was feeling ill for ages. She was saying to all her friends, oh, I've got no energy. She was going to the doctors because she just didn't feel very well and she just seemed to have no energy, etc. Helen, her name was, wasn't it? This is a common thing that happens. It's not an unusual thing, you know. So yeah. Oh gosh, what was her name? Sorry, I've got to find her name because it's important. Helen Bailey. I've remembered it as I'm typing it in. Yeah, Helen Bailey. She was a famous author, wasn't she? And her partner, who I don't remember his name, but his name doesn't matter, murdered her and her little dog, put them in the cesspit under the garage. But before that, he had been drugging her for ages to make her acquiescent, you know? So they think that he didn't kill her before he put her in the cesspit. He drugged her and chucked her in the cesspit to just suffocate, you know. Just anyway, he was found guilty. So okay, so let's see what happened this morning. We'll go through the sentencing and the verdict. So I did think that these men, they didn't have a chance really, because the thing is, once the husband was once the husband admitted to what he'd done, what chance did the men have, really? Because he'd taken videos and things like that, so there's proof. There's proof of what they had done, video proof. So it seemed like they were probably likely to be found guilty. So I just want to go through, unfortunately, as I say, I couldn't come on as it was all developing, because I was in class, but I just want to read to you. Let's see. So as I was in class, I was following Sky News. So it all started around about 8:30 this morning, the preparation. Let's have a look. So there were big demonstrations. The defendants arrived in masks. Let's see, what time did it? Gosh, it started quite early this morning. Right, they're doing speculation about the sentence. We won't do that because we know now what the sentences are. So there's been loads of, you know what they're like in France. They like a demonstration, don't they? Wasn't it Paul O'Grady said that they demonstrate if their coffee's cold in France? It's just a classic one-liner from Paul O'Grady. And they do, and good for them. They don't put up with any shit, do they? You know, they had a revolution, and now they don't put up with any shit. If they want to say something, they have a demonstration. So apparently, as the defendants were arriving this morning, they booed them. And look, they've got flares and everything. So I'm not laughing because I think it's funny, because I think it's very serious. But I'm just laughing because it's brilliant how, what's the word? You know, how the French will get out there and protest. Good for them. So this 3-month trial has turned Gisèle Pelicot into a feminist icon. Her courage, one woman against dozens of accused men, has proved inspiration, because she is the only one. This is one woman standing up against all these other defendants who are all male. So that must have felt quite lonely for her when she first made that decision to be, because she could have remained anonymous, but she decided not to. Anyway, this has proved inspirational, with supporters lining up each day for a place in the courthouse. They've cheered and thanked Miss Pelicot as she walked in and out. It's quite, to me, it's a real landmark in the history of women, if you like, you know, for women. Okay, let's see what this Sky reporter had to say.
Llévate 100 euros con el plan ahorro inteligente de Iberdrola y ahorra cada día con energía renovable. Me encanta. Con el
Morning, Kay. Well, you can see behind me already that there's a queue of press waiting to get into the court here to hear these verdicts, which we're expecting to start being handed down, as well as sentences in around the next 2 hours or so. As you say, receiving those verdicts and sentences today, the main person that we'll be focusing on to start with is, of course, Dominique Pelicot. He is the husband of Gisèle Pelicot, and he has admitted to drugging and raping her repeatedly.
So this is what we have to remember, that anyone who's not sure about Gisèle, he's admitted to doing it. So once he admitted it, the other guys had no chance. And it's funny his name being Dominique, because of course you always think of that, you think of that as a woman's name, don't you? But anyway, it's obviously Dominic, and it's Dominique.
Over the period of around a decade. And he also said that he invited strangers to their home to allegedly rape her as well. Now, the details of this case have been extremely distressing, and it's gripped the world because Gisèle Pelicot made the brave decision to waive her right to anonymity, and that meant that some of the videos of the attacks were shown in open court, but also the evidence could be discussed as well. And as you said, there are 50 other men who will be awaiting verdicts in sentencing today, they are accused of rape and sex assault. Now, around 2/3 of them deny the charges, and they claim, some of them, that they believe they were being invited to the house, that this was part of the couple's sexual fantasy. They say they didn't think it was rape, but many people have been absolutely outraged by what has happened and wonder.
Yeah, so they didn't think it was rape, but she was unconscious. You know, now, no, listen, what anyone gets up to in, you know, with adults with permission, and some people do like swinging and stuff like that. That's fine. But, you know, when a woman is unconscious on the bed, that should mean, so it puts me a bit in mind of, I don't know if any of you have ever seen American Gigolo with Richard Gere, a film from many years ago. There was a similar scene in there because he was a gigolo and he was called out to this guy's house, and the wife was, you know, completely out of it. And, you know, he quite often was sent out to be like the third person in a ménage à trois. You know, which is fair enough. If consenting adults want to do those things, there's nothing wrong with that, is there? But he went out to this house. The woman was practically unconscious. The guy was telling him to rough her up a bit, and she then was actually found murdered. So that's another. You know, this case reminds me of that. And he was like, he knew it was. You know, he was trying to sort of question it, but the guy was just like, oh no, blah blah. You know, she's fine, and this, that, and the other. And anyway, I don't want to go into that film, but what I'm trying to say is it reminded me of that. How often does it happen? And how do you know if a woman, if it's rape or not? Well, you know, if the woman's unconscious, it's RAPE, idiot. These men are idiots to say, oh, well, we didn't realise, we thought she was consenting. Well, she wasn't consenting if she was unconscious. And some of them actually said they thought she was just asleep. Well, if she was asleep, it's also RAPE. You know, just because someone's asleep doesn't mean, you know, what is it like? Oh, no, she's fine. She's just asleep. Ridiculous.
How this has happened. And I think one of the facts in this case, which is distressing people even more, is the fact that, as well as those who are on trial at the moment, police found images of around 30 other men who they haven't yet been able to identify. And those people are still free, likely in the local area.
Yeah, everyone will know who they are. That's a bit, listen, you've only got to sneeze in my village and people know what's happening. Somebody was saying to me the other day, who was it? It was a student who said they'd gone in one of the electrodomestico shops here in the village where I live, and I'd said, trying to speak, you know, trying to practice their Spanish. And the person in there, who I don't know, I have had dealings with them about 15 years ago, maybe, that I've bought something from that shop. And they said to the person, oh, I'm trying to learn Spanish, you know, please speak slowly and I'll have a go at understanding. And this person who owns the shop said to them, oh, where are you learning Spanish? So they said they were learning Spanish with Vicky. I went, see that, you know, and started, you know, saying all sorts of things, not horrible things, but, you know, talking about me as if I was his best friend. I haven't spoken to him for 15 years. And even then, it was probably only just to go in to buy a fridge or something. Very strange. No, so, but that's what it's like here. I've had people come up to me and start asking me about classes, people who I've never even seen before. As far as I knew, but they all know what I do. They know things about me. It's like jungle drums in these small villages. So those are the people who perhaps have done this. So everyone will know, but do you know who'll know? It'll be all the men that'll know, because what will have happened in that village is if the word about what this Dominique was making Gisèle do. it will have gone round all the men. The women probably didn't know about it, but all the men will have known about it, and they'll all have wanted to have their go there. That's what would happen in this village. I know that. I'm 100% certain of it. And I can't tell you how I know that. It's nothing to do with anything that's happened to me, but it's something that somebody told me once about something else. And, I can't talk about it because it involves other people. But sort of similar situation, but not a wife. This is what villages are like. So those other men there, somebody will know who they are. Probably the other men will know exactly who they are. So queues gather outside Avignon Court. It was still dark when queues of press and protesters began forming outside the court in Avignon. Security has been tightened ahead of the verdicts for 51 men accused in the mass RAPE trial that has shocked France. Most demonstrators were here to support Gisèle, the victim who chose to waive her right to anonymity so the evidence in the case could be heard in public. One person held a huge sign saying, "Thank you for your courage." Many here are hoping that those found guilty are handed tough sentences as they demand that France cracks down on RAPE. So the defendants arrived in masks, a lot of them anyway. So by 8:29, some of the defendants had already arrived. Many of them were wearing the medical face masks they have used throughout the trial to conceal their identities. They are allowed one family member each to attend the verdicts today. Imagine, do you think, if you found out, ladies, if you found out that was your husband that had done that, would you stay with them? I know for a fact that what I would do. Oh my God, I'd kill him myself, I think. Okay, so these are some of the scenes. Thank you for your courage, Gisèle. Merci pour votre courage. I do remember, but I can speak French. Well, I used to be able to speak French. I don't mean the sweary kind. I mean the proper French. But of course, I haven't spoke French for years since I've been living in Spain, so I've probably forgotten most of it. And Christmas Noël en prison, Christmas in prison for those, I don't know, enzones, for the guilty maybe. I don't know what that last word means. Justice for Gisèle Pelicot, stop violence done against women. Yeah, violence faite aux femmes, violence against women. 8:43, queues had formed outside the court where 51 men were due to hear their sentences and verdicts. Signs of support for Gisèle are on display with one reading, "So that shame changes sides." And Ms. Pelicot said in court one of her reasons for waiving her right to anonymity and allowing media to cover the case was to try and change the stigma of shame felt by RAPE victims. Now, if she wouldn't have waived her right to anonymity, we wouldn't know anything about this case at all. If it'd be just a little line in the newspaper or something. I wanted all women victims of RAPE, not just when they've been drugged. RAPE exists at all levels. I want those women to say, "Mrs. Pelicot did it, we can do it too," she said. When you are RAPE'd, there is shame. And it's not for us to have shame, it's for them, right? I could feel myself getting emotional there. And it's true, because women who are RAPE'd, they feel shame. They feel embarrassed. That's why a lot of women don't go to the police or anything, because they feel embarrassed. They feel like they've brought it on themselves, or other people will think they've brought it on themselves, or as if they're guilty in some way. And they're not, so hopefully this will help in that. So who's that? This is the oh God, this is the defense lawyer. The more we see about defense lawyers, the more I just think, oh, I feel a bit sorry for them actually, because just like I just couldn't do it. How could you? Everyone is entitled to be defended, but I know I could not defend them, especially because he pled guilty anyway. So her client faces up to 20 years in prison after he pled guilty to aggravated RAPs, administration of a substance without knowledge, invasion of privacy, and illegal broadcast of images. So don't forget, he did record all this. But although that's horrible, in some ways it's a good thing. Because he recorded it, these men can't, get away with it, Anyway, so inside the courtroom, the benches are empty for now. There were 2 glass boxes. One box has been used by Gisèle Pelicot, the man, throughout the trial, and the second used by other defendants who are on remand. The defendants not in custody will be seated in the front rows of the courtroom. Each defendant is allowed 1 family member to attend court today. They will be seated in one of the transmission rooms. So then Pelicot's children arrive at court as other defendants arrive with 1 family member each. Around 180 journalists. That's a lot, isn't it? Bloody hell, there's more journalists than even the defendants. 180 have been allocated places in transmission rooms where we can view the main courtroom on a large screen. Police are guarding the entrance to the main entrance. A short while ago, Gisèle and Dominique Pelicot's 3 adult children, Caroline, David, and Florian, arrived at the court. I mean, what do those daughters make of their father? I mean, don't think he'll be getting any Christmas cards this year, will he, from his kids? Or, certainly not his female kids. Don't know what his kids think about it all. I don't know if they support him or their mum, or maybe both. I don't know, because at the end of the day, there they are, Caroline, David, and Florian. He is still their father. Oof. Okay, let's watch this video.
Llévate 100 euros con el plan ahorro inteligente de Iberdrola y ahorra cada día con energía renovable. ¡Me encanta!
This is Gisèle arriving in court. She always looks very sort of proud, she always puts her head up, and that's good. Oh. Dignity. We've seen a lot of dignity lately from families. How they manage to behave with such dignity is a bit beyond me, to be honest, but they do manage to do it. It's fantastic. So Gisèle Pelicot has just arrived at the court in Avignon. She's not wearing sunglasses and she smiles as she sees the supporters waiting for her outside the court. She tells the waiting reporter she will speak after the verdict has been delivered. Crowds have gathered and are shouting justice for Gisèle and are applauding her as she makes her way into the courthouse. Speaking from outside court, our correspondent Siobhan Robbins says Miss Pelicot has become a hero in France and a face of bravery and dignity for many, many women. Apparently, this has also ignited debate around French RAPE law. Consent isn't currently within the French RAPE law, says Robbins. Some people are asking for that to change, but when you look, there are signs behind me, and some of them are saying, "Thank you, Gisèle, for your bravery." So this trial has led to more searches for information about domestic abuse support. Because people don't even seek support a lot of the time. You know, people just put up with it. When it's on what you might call a low level, if you like, maybe not as dramatic as this, you know, drugging their wife and pimping her out. But the domestic abuse, of course, both ways. And I know that some men are domestically abused. I'm not decrying that as well. It's not always women, but probably 80%, if not more of the time, it is women. You know, it's on so many levels. It can reach a big sort of offence like that, or it can be even a small, you know, to me, it can even be a little thing like, you know, just your husband or partner not wanting you to go anywhere, you know, making you feel bad about going out with your friends. Coercive control takes so many levels. Doesn't mean someone necessarily drugging you and RAPing you. It can be so many different things. It doesn't even have to involve physical violence, mental control, you know, undermining somebody, making snide remarks, you know, so many different levels to domestic abuse. And it normally starts off with small things, doesn't it? And accelerates. I know that because that has happened to me. So Sarah McGrath tells Sky News that Gisèle Pelicot has become a national treasure for shining a light on what it's like for RAP victims going through the French justice system. She waived her automatic right to anonymity in the case, but we know that, so I'm not going to keep repeating that. But by choosing to leave the court doors open to the media, she's really shone a spotlight on what it's like for a victim going through the French justice system. Women for Women France runs the nationwide online resource centre for all domestic violence victims across France. So it's had a big impact in France, obviously, but I do think this case has reverberated around the world. So she says she's seen a remarkable increase in people looking for resources and information through her charity since the Pelicot case came to public attention. So as Gisèle takes her seat inside the courtroom, defendants swear at the crowd. That's nice. So the defence lawyers are dressed in black robes with white collars, discussing amongst themselves. She has arrived and she's sitting next to her youngest son, Florian. Two defendants gave a finger to the crowd who was shouting liars and criminals at them. Okay. So let's have a look at some information about Dominique, the husband.
Pelicot, the man who's admitted drugging and raping his wife and inviting at least 50 other men to allegedly rape her as well. He and his now ex-wife Gisèle are at the centre of a mass rape trial in France. Gisèle has become a symbol of the fight against sexual violence.
But who is the man, now labelled the monster of Mazan?
Just a warning before we start, some of the details in this story are distressing and include references to rape. This is Mazan, the pretty Provençal village where the Pelicots lived. It's quiet, relaxing. 72-year-old Dominique met Gisèle at 19 and said it was love at first sight. But Dominique had a dark secret. What Dominique Pelicot did was beyond betrayal, and he planned his crimes meticulously. For almost a decade, he was crushing sleep-inducing drugs into his wife's food, raping her, and inviting strangers to their home to allegedly do the same. He'd ask some of the men to come to this car park. He'd tell them not to smoke, not to wear fragrance, so they left no scent on Gisèle's body. He'd then walk them down the road to the house where she lay sedated. But it was in 2020 when Dominique Pelicot was caught in this shopping.
Oh my God. So he'd tell them not to smoke, not to wear perfume, aftershave. So she didn't smell anything or notice anything. You know, there's a lot of people out there like, oh, well, how could she not know? Of course she didn't know. She was drugged unconscious. She had sedatives crushed into her drinks. She was completely unconscious when these things happened. So all she did know was that she knew she wasn't feeling well. She was at the doctor's every 5 minutes. She had a lot of gynecological issues. But she didn't know what was happening to her because she was drugged unconscious. And so that's why these men really, literally, they didn't have a leg to stand on in court, because one, Dominique, the husband, had admitted what he'd done. He had videos of it. And also they did say, oh, they thought she was just asleep. She wasn't asleep. She was unconscious.
Centre trying to film up women's skirts. This video shows a security guard who spotted him confronting him, and he was reported to the police. Investigators seized his devices. They found 20,000 images of abuse filmed over a decade.
20,000 images of abuse filmed over 10 years. And also, he was out there trying to upskirt women and things. Oh my God, well, he's got a 20-year sentence, spoiler alert. So he's not young as it is. So he's going to be sort of quite elderly when he comes out. But if he ever comes out. But yeah, enjoy yourself in prison.
It's been suggested there were two Dominiques, the family man and the pervert. He's talked about the impact of childhood trauma. At age 14, he was forced to participate in a gang rape. A verdict and sentencing is expected for Dominique and the other 50 men this week. Many of them deny the charges, but Dominique has told the court, "I am a rapist," and insists all the men knew it was rape.
Oh my God. Or, you know, it's funny, you know, you think, when it's sort of abstract, you know, that you're thinking about all these men, but when you see them all marching in like that, 50 men, that's a lot, isn't it? If 50 men walk past your house, that would be a long line, wouldn't it? That would take a while for them to walk past. I think when you see it like that, when you actually see them all walking in and you realise, and they're all ages, all shapes and sizes, you know, I don't believe for a minute they didn't know that she was unconscious. They will have known. They'll have talked about it.
Prosecutors have asked for him to get the maximum 20-year sentence.
So the maximum 20-year sentence, and that is actually what he has received, 20 years. So. Okay, so we're going to move up a bit because, right, so Gisèle Pelicot found guilty of aggravated rape. Now, oh, God, I shouldn't say that word because YouTube will pick it up and that'll be it, demonetized again. Do you know, I've just got used to it and I've been demonetized that many times lately. I just really don't care. Oh, he's 72, so he's got a 20-year sentence. He's going to be in his 90s before he comes out, if he ever does manage to come out. So he was, he pled guilty, and Siobhan Robbins here is saying it's a different system here in France. If you go to court in the UK, you have the process where at the beginning you're asked how you plead and they say guilty, or not guilty. But this is now the formal process of finding him guilty. Once they've formally found him guilty with it, they will use that to build the basis of how they sentence him. So that's it. So he'd already pled guilty and then he's found guilty and he receives a 20-year sentence. Now, so then they start on the other defendants giving their sentences, and Gisèle is looking at every defendant as they are found guilty. Now, just let me come back. Now, don't forget to like, please, as hi, Angel. Don't forget to press the like, please. That's the one thing I'll ask for. Well, and subscribe, of course, if you're not subscribed. So Gisèle is looking at every defendant as they're found guilty. So an hour ago, more than 30 men had been found guilty, but the verdicts are continuing to come in. None have been found not guilty so far. Then it goes into, another defendant found guilty of the RAPE of his own wife. So the judge is currently reading out a list of defendants and giving his verdicts. Jean-Pierre M. was given his verdict next. He's found guilty of attempted RAPE and aggravated RAPE of his wife, as well as drugging her. And this was a friend of Dominique, wasn't it? It turned out he'd done the same with his wife. And Dominique was one of the men that actually RAP'd this wife. This was some sort of a club that they had. You know, they all knew what was going on, I think. Anyway, the 63-year-old farm vehicle driver earlier admitted to drugging his own wife for 5 years and RAPing her. So we mustn't forget, you know, they have at least admitted it. So now, an hour ago, more than 40 men had been found guilty of RAPing Gisèle Pelicot. One man was found guilty of SA. Hassan O is currently on the run, and he's been found guilty in his absence. He'll be in Algeria or somewhere, because he's, you know, there's a lot of people probably in France, just like in Spain, come over from Morocco or Algeria, and they do like, you know, maybe he was working on the farms or whatever. Anyway, he's on the run. He'll have gone back to his own country, and he's been found guilty in his absence. Whether he'll ever be caught or not, I don't know. Then Dominique was sentenced to his 20 years, the maximum sentence. We've had a lot of maximum sentences lately, thank God. I'm all in favour of maximum sentences. Sometimes I don't even think there should be a max, it's just a maximum sentence. You know, that's the sentence. You know, it's not, you know, between 10 and 20 years. It's 20 years. Because let's remember, he didn't only do it once. How many times did he do it over that 10-year period? He probably should have got 20 years for each offence. And also, of course, let's not forget, he was guilty of taking indecent images of his daughter, of his own daughter and his daughter-in-law. So he's a real piece of shit, isn't he? So after the sentence was given, Gisèle rested her head against a wall as her family whispered amongst themselves. And, you know, it won't be easy for Gisèle. This is her husband of many years. She's had 3 children with him. She thought he was a loving, kind husband. So this will not, you know, it won't be like, oh, this is easy. It'd be hard to accept that your husband has done this to you. So here we go. First group of men sentenced to up to 12 years in prison. So we've got Jean-Pierre M., that one we were talking about, 63-year-old farm driver, guilty of drugging and organising the RAPE of his own wife 12 times. He gets 12 years in prison, not enough. Lionel R., a 44-year-old salesman, guilty of RAPI. I think I'll just say R-ing in future, sorry, because it's going to come up a lot. Gisèle once at her home. He's sentenced to 8 years. So he gets 8 years for doing it once, but the twonk Jean-Pierre only gets 12 years for doing it 12 times. No, not happy with that. Cyril, a 54-year-old tradesman, again once, 8 years. Jacques C., 73-year-old retired fireman, once, and he's sentenced to 5 years in prison and 3 years suspended. Why is his sentence different from the others? Yeah, don't understand that. Second group of men, Christian L., 56-year-old fireman. Oh, all these firemen. Again, once he got 13 years. Just wondering why some have got 8 years, some have got 13 years, and one of them only got 5 years. Maybe it depends if they had video evidence or not. Nicholas F., a 42-year-old journalist, again, once 8 years. Boris M., a 37-year-old operations manager, once 8 years. Philippe L., a 62-year-old gardener, 5 years. Yeah, I'm not understanding the difference in sentences, really. But look at the difference in the ages, you know, and the professions. You know, they're all kinds of people, all different ages. Nizar H., 41-year-old unemployed, 10 years in prison. Charlie A., 30-year-old temporary worker, 6 times. He was found guilty of R-ing her 6 times. And he first visited the Pelicot house when he was 22. And he is sentenced to 13 years. So why is he only getting 13 years when he did it 6 times? I'll never understand all this. And then we've got Joseph C., a 69-year-old retiree. He's only got 3 years. Anyway, no idea why there's such a difference. God, there's so many people. Just incredible. So, third group, Fabian S., a 39-year-old workman, once 11 years. Andy R., 37-year-old unemployed, once 6 years. Juan, or it won't be pronounced Joan, but I don't know how it's pronounced, a 27-year-old soldier, twice 10 years. Huzmatin D., a 43-year-old tradesman, once 9 years. Why? Lorry driver who R'd her 6 times in 5 years, 13 years sentence. Ahmed T., 54-year-old plumber, once 8 years. Dominique D. Sorry, I've got my throat's just going. Dominique D., a 45-year-old lorry driver, 6 times, 13 years. Sybil B., 47-year-old lorry driver, once 9 years. Mahdi D., 36-year-old transport worker, once 8 years. Mohammed R., 70-year-old retiree, were once at a holiday home. Wow. A holiday home, 8 years. Redune A., 40-year-old unemployed, twice 9 years. Thierry P., 61-year-old craftsman, once 8 years. And Patrice N., 55-year-old electrician, was found guilty of once, R-ing Gisèle once, 8 years. Patrick A., 60-year-old unemployed man, once 6 years. Hughes M., 39-year-old Tyler, once 5 years. Mathieu D., 53-year-old banker, once 7 years. Jean T., sorry, I don't know what language I'm speaking now, 52-year-old roofer, once 8 years. Hang on, we'll have a look at that in a minute. Where are we? Did I do those? Yeah, I've read those. So Dominique Pelicot's daughter shouted at her father in the courtroom during the trial. He's 72. Dominique Pelicot was given the longest sentence of 20 years. He's 72 now. It means he'll likely die in jail. And his daughter shouted at him, "You will die alone like a dog in jail." Well, I wouldn't sentence a dog to that, to be honest. In fact, it'd be awful if a dog had to go through that, but not awful that he's had to go through it. He has begged for their forgiveness, but that will not come. So don't forget, he had indecent images of his daughter on his phone as well. So no wonder she's really angry with him. At least they've got each other, you know, the mom and daughter and the two brothers. Cyprian C, 44-year-old lorry driver, once 6 years. Abdelali D, 47-year-old former cook, twice 8 years. Jean-Luc L, 46-year-old carpenter, twice 10 years. Romain, 63-year-old retiree. God, can't they find something else to do with the retirement? You know what? When people retire, normally they take up painting or, you know, I don't know, walking football or golf or something. You know, think of something else to do with your bloody retirement, you idiots. He's sentenced to 15 years. Ludovic B, 39-year-old shop assistant, twice. He was seen on video warming his hands on a radiator, sentenced to 7 years. Oh, God. What's that in there for? Paul G, 31-year-old labourer, guilty once, 8 years. Saifeddin G, 37-year-old lorry driver, once, 3 years. Omar D, 36-year-old maintenance worker, once, 8 years. Cedric G, 50-year-old IT technician. Bloody hell, it's every profession you can imagine. We've got lorry drivers, we've got IT technicians, we've got firemen, we've got painters, we've got bloody people who retired from all lorry drive. Oh, you name it, they're there. We've not had a doctor yet. Gregory S, a 31-year-old painter decorator, 8 years. Once, the offence was once, 8 years. Adrian L, 34-year-old foreman, once, 6 years. Jean-Marc L, 74-year-old rhetoric. I'm sorry, just like for fuck's sake. You know, when my dad retired, he started gardening. Our garden was like bloody, it was beautiful. You know, it was like the most, honestly, lovely, lovely garden because he started gardening. That's what most people, when they retire, they start doing things like that. They don't start doing, you know, things like this. Idiot. Anyway, he only got 6 years. So he's going to be 80 when he comes out. But, you know, he's had quite a good time as it is. Okay, then Dominique Pelicot's lawyer spoke. And she says they haven't made a decision on whether they would appeal. And she said she won't criticise any decision made by the courts. Well, good. I should hope not as well. Don't know how you could even do it, I'm afraid. Just don't know how you could do it. 38 minutes ago, where are the other 30? We tried to get some reaction to this morning's sentencing. Speaking to Sky News broadcaster Agnes Poirier says the French public will be glad to see the prison terms being handed down. They will be happy that such terrible crimes are given the sentences that public prosecution more or less demanded. But she adds that many will still, there's another 30 men that haven't been identified or found, 30 other men. So they must be on the video or something. I don't know how they would know that there are 30 others. There must be videos or photos of them. But somebody will know who they are. How unsettling is it for people that they are still somewhere at large? And it's highly likely they could be in the local area. Well, they'd definitely be in the local area because all the other men were from around a 4-mile radius. So if you lived in that area, well, just be careful who you meet on bloody Tinder or, was it Plenty of Fish? Be like, first question you have to ask them, were you involved in the Pelicot case? crikey. You know, don't just avoid that village like the plague, because, you know, there's no man in that village that's going to be any good. If you're looking for a man, of course. I mean, you might not be, so. But if you are, don't bother with any of these. Oh, so this is one of the two sons of Gisèle giving a thumbs up as he walked out of the courthouse following the sentencing. I think it's so nice that Gisèle has got her family on her side, because you know what, sometimes families, especially sons and daughters and things, they don't want to think badly of their mum or dad. So it's hard for them sometimes to accept maybe that their dad's been an absolute twonk, or their mum. And they find it difficult, don't they? But it seems like in this case, Gisèle is getting support from her children, and that's important, I think. So, whew, gosh, yeah, David, they got everybody. If they got everybody off the streets in that village, they don't. Who'd be left? And I'm amazed that there's no. So there's firemen involved, but what about police? Do you think there are any police involved? Now, there may not be, because I don't know what the rules are in France for police and that, but for here in Spain, generally, not always, because there are a few police here in this village who do live in the village. Now, they live in the quartel, like in the Guardia Civil stations in Spain. There's normally what's called a quartel, which is the God, how would I explain? It's like the police station, really, but it has houses, you know, flats, apartments, and the Guardia actually live there. Not all of them. Some of them will have houses outside or whatever, but there is provision to live in the quartel itself, which is really quite strange, because it's the police station. There's cells there as well. But then at the back, there's apartments for the Guardia to live in. And many of them do live there with their wives. Probably by the time they have children, that maybe they move out. I don't know. You know, I don't know. I've never been out with anyone from the Guardia, so I don't know exactly how it works. But I forgot But yeah, a lot of the police in villages here in Spain, they will be brought in from outside. You know, so they try not to have. It's like if you were living in Manchester, Manchester's a big place, but in a small part of if you were living in a district of Manchester, they wouldn't really want you to police that area where you come from, because you might know people in the area. I mean, it's common sense, really, isn't it? You know, if you became a police person, you wouldn't really, you know, that you might know people already that were involved in crime or whatever. It's a compromising situation, isn't it, for the police? Now, you need a knowledge. You could have a knowledge of an area, but to be made a police, I mean, I don't know if there's a rule on it in the UK, and I don't even know if there's a rule here about it, but I've noticed, and from people that I know who've got friends or family in the Guardia, they tend to go to different places to actually do the policing, which to me makes absolute sense, because, you know, it is awkward. I mean, there is a Guardia who lives at the back of me, you know, and it's a bit sort of, because would you go to that person if you know, would you want that person to know all your business, because they literally live around the corner from you? And knowing what this village is like for rumours and for people talking and that, it's like the social workers as well. I've got a social worker lives on my street. Oh, I would never go to a social worker that lived on my street, because I know what it's like here, and how would I be able to speak to that person in confidence? So I personally think these people, they should come from different places. You know, that's my opinion on that, but I don't know how that sort of thing works in the UK. But, or would it be that if you did and then it turned out, but see, everybody knows everybody in my village, because I was thinking, well, if it turned out you knew somebody, you could remove yourself from that case. But in my village, everybody knows each other anyway. So, you know, even if they like, there's lots of people that, when I say know each other, you know people in the village because it's a small village and you see people every day. You go to the shop, you see the same people. You don't know them like you know them. They're not your friends, or you don't know maybe their intimate secrets and their personal lives, but you know of them. You know who they are because you see them on a regular basis. And, you know, I'm still an outsider. I've only lived here 25 years. But other people, they've been brought up here, and then their parents will know people and their grandparents will know people. Everybody knows each other. So it's a funny situation, isn't it? So, yeah, if you did need social services, or if you did need the police, you wouldn't go you wouldn't want people knowing your business who live round about, would you? Yeah, David, they should be from outside the area. And even in a place like where you are in Glasgow, sorry, I'm doxing you there, but I don't think I am, because I think people know you are. And it's a big place, of course. But they should be from outside the locality, isn't it? Because you get notorious people as well, don't you, in areas? I'm not saying you're notorious, but you might be. Maybe you are. But you get notorious people. They as well, if the police were living in that area and the notorious people knew about them and those police were after them, they could get retribution as well, couldn't they? And that wouldn't be a good thing, would it? You know, you'd want to be... You'd want to be miles away from, if you were investigating someone for red rum or for drugs or whatever, you wouldn't want, that person knowing where you live, would you? You'd want to live somewhere far away from there. So it's a very tricky situation. Okay, let's just see. Now, she was going to speak. She was going to speak, wasn't she? Let's see if she's spoken yet. So the of course, France at the moment politically is in a right mess, isn't it? Because the Prime Minister, that guy, oh God, what's that guy's name? He was in Europe, wasn't he? Anyway, he's just gone. So they haven't got a Prime Minister at the moment. They've got the President still, Macron. But 6 minutes ago, the President of France's National Assembly, Yale Brown Pivot, never heard of him, thanked Gisèle for her courage, and he said, "Through you, it is the voice of so many victims that carries today, the shame that changes sides, the taboo that is broken. The world is no longer the same thanks to you." So, yeah, let's hope so. Let's hope. Will it change things? Sometimes, honestly, sometimes I've got to be honest, I do despair. And I think, this world will never change. Is it just the way some people are? And can it never change? I don't know. Can it change? Let's hope so. Sorry, I'm just looking. I'd like to see, before we go, I would like to see her being interviewed, but I don't know if that's going to happen. Let's have a look. Sorry, I'm just going down, just going along X to see if there's anything that things normally come out first on X. Let's have a look. Okay, while we're just waiting, actually, I will, let's just have a look at this. I don't know if Heather's still there. But of course, Heather is very preoccupied with the WASPy ladies, this scandal about the WASPy pensioners who are not receiving their pensions. And of course, Keir Starmer and Labour promised that they would. And now they're saying they won't because they haven't got enough money. You know, it's like backtrack. But what I have found interesting is, you know,
No, he got parachuted. So you asked
Diane Abbott, who everybody has put down for years, because she is a bit, she's a bit annoying, but she is a very committed person to social justice. I will say that for her. She's been an MP for many, many years. She's now what they call the mother of the house, the longest standing MP in the Houses of Commons, a female MP, and she doesn't go along with she says what she thinks. She doesn't go along with party lines, etc. She never has, she's I suppose she's what we call extreme left wing, but she's not that extreme left wing, to be honest. But she's been voted in over and over again. She must be a good MP because her constituents have always voted her in over and over again. And she's got a lot to say about this WASPy thing. So there's probably a lot of ladies out there who maybe before wouldn't have had anything good to say about Diane Abbott. Maybe now have got something good to say about. Let's just hear what she's got to say about the WASPy scandal.
Diane Abbott, do you, Prime Minister, really understand how let down WASPy women feel? He said he did understand.
No, he doesn't. That's the problem. He doesn't. One of the things about Keir is he's only been in the party a relatively short period of time. He was DPP until, I think, 2014, and he couldn't have been a member of the party. Then he got parachuted into Keir. No, he got parachuted into
St Pancras.
Holborn, just parachuted in, didn't have to contest for it. Then, because it was a safe seat, he didn't have to fight for that. And he has no feel for politics. Now, he might have got great feel for politics because I smashed people like you. But he's got no feel for politics. He doesn't understand how they feel. Remember, he's on his big fat DPP pension. What does he know?
She hates Keir Starmer. She hates him. And she's too much over the hate of Keir Starmer. But at least she's on the side of the WASPy women.
Ageing women who really will depend on the state pension. He doesn't know.
He is your leader.
Absolutely.
He is your Prime Minister.
Yes. No, he's my leader and he's my Prime Minister. Therefore, I'm entitled to say what I think. There's more I could say, but I've said...
Go on.
But I've said the minimum. But no, he doesn't understand how they feel. And the other thing he doesn't know, because he wasn't an MP at the time, is how persistent they were and how committed they were to their campaign.
And how widespread is the feeling amongst Labour MPs who are upset with this government decision? Because it was not in the manifesto, was it? It was not promised.
I think a lot of MPs are very unhappy. It may be that, the new intake are going to march with Keir over a cliff, but a lot of MPs, particularly MPs that had their photo taken with WASPy women, if they think that people are going to rally behind them, what is going to happen is those new MPs are going to go back to their constituencies and they're going to hear what people think. And I think they could be on a kind of knife edge on that vote, because there'll be so many Labour MPs who will either not vote or vote against them.
Yeah. Now, I do agree with a lot of the things she's got to say there about the WASPy women, but the only thing I would say against Diane Abbott is, well, under Jeremy Corbyn, your ex-boyfriend, and they were in a couple for many years, or for a while anyway, Labour didn't win an election. They didn't win an election, so it doesn't matter what you think or what you don't think. You do have to win an election before you can do anything. So we'll see what happens there. But all I would say to anyone like Heather, who, of course, is one of my regular chatters, And I have a lot of sympathy for this. But I don't even think I'm ever going to get a pension. I haven't thought it for years. Don't even ever consider it, because, the boomers had the best years. And it's the boomers that sort of had the best years of everything, like the benefit. They never fought in a war, but they keep banging on about it. They get their pensions, they had all their benefits and this, that and the other, and now and they voted for Brexit, a lot of them, and now they're whinging because they're not getting, nothing's as great as it used to be. But what about young people or slightly younger people that'll never get the things that you got, and then you voted us out of the European Union, and Britain's even worse than it was before. So but the waspy women, this is a different thing. I mean, I don't understand the ins and outs of it, but all I do know is that they were promised something that they haven't got, and they were taxpayers themselves over many years in an age when people worked, not when they were all on benefits and God knows what. And Britain, I think this is what Keir Starmer is trying to do as well. He's trying to sort of, he's trying to sort of make Britain a nation of workers again, rather than people that are on benefits. But how he's trying to do that, only history will say whether it works or not. But the thing is, once Brexit happened, in my opinion, Britain, it's fighting an uphill battle, because they just haven't got the money. Exactly, Heather, you paid your tax for 55 years, so I don't think I'll get a pension. Well, maybe I'll get something. I've paid into the system here. I should get some Spanish pension. I've paid into the system in the UK before I came here. And I was 33 when I came here. So I've paid into it for some amount of time. I sort of paying into it now because I'm never sure which way I should go now. It's all got complicated again since Brexit. I'm like in the never land, where I'm an immigrant. I am an immigrant, and I've always been an immigrant, but I was a European before. Now I'm a British immigrant, and British immigrants are treated the same as African immigrants, Russian immigrants. We're not part of the European Union now, so I'm just treated that. This is what surprises British people. I've seen it. So, being treated, they think they're not being treated with enough respect, but they voted to come out of Europe. Britain voted to come out of Europe. So as far as Spain's concerned, they're not in Europe anymore. It was their choice. Spain didn't want them to go. Spain would welcome them back probably in a heartbeat if they wanted to come, but they have moved on from it, because the thing I think that British people forget about Spain is everybody wants to come to Spain, not just British people. I've met so many different nationalities. Since I came to live in Spain, I've met people I would never have met in a million years if I would have stayed in the UK. I've met Russian people, I've met South African people, I've met Canadian people, American people, Australian people. I've met Estonian people, Swedish people, Icelandic people, people from the Faroe Islands, people from Denmark, people from Holland, people from Germany, people from Italy, people from France. I've met, honest to God, I've been in class once. I remember posting on it on my Facebook. I had about 10 different nationalities in my classroom. And that to me is good. To me, I'm a person, I'm not, I'm British European. That's my nationality in my eyes. But I'm a citizen of the world. I'm a human being. I don't go with those kind of things. I don't like nationalism and stuff like that. Gosh, I'm waffling again now. Yeah, United Nations are. It is a bit like, has been like that in my classroom, and I tell you, that's how you enrich your mind. And I think I've said before. At the moment, right at this moment in time, I've got Icelandic, Irish, Lithuanian, Scottish, English, Canadian, students, just at this moment in time, the students that I've got, but I've had so many other nationalities in the past, but that's how the students on my current sort of register, if you like. You learn so many things. You learn about different cultures, you know, and the first time, that I had a Russian student, for example, I was like, oh my God, I've never met a Russian person before. You watch the news and you're thinking, oh, all Russian people are like, you know, poisoning people in parks. There's just so much propaganda out there. You can't believe what you hear. People are the same wherever. Russian people are lovely people. You know, in general, the be twonks, just like these British twonks. You know, there's always twonks. Different religions I've met. There's twonks, there's nice people. Just, you know, I've met I've had Ukrainian students, you name it. I've had all different nationalities. And you know what they've all got in common? They're all nice people, the students I've had anyway. I've never had anyone from a different nationality who I've thought, oh God, that's a typical whatever. You know, they're not, you know, they're just nice people. Generally, they're nice people. So I don't know how I got on to talking about that when we talk about the WASPI. Oh, yeah, so the WASPI, as I say, I don't know the ins and outs of it. But all I would say is, to me, when someone's worked all their life and paid into the system, as Heather says, for 55 years, you are entitled to more than, you know, people on benefits. I know people on benefits that have never worked their whole life, you know, and they do, and I'm not talking about immigrants, I'm talking about British people. You know, they get houses, they get cars, or they get this, that, or the other, and you think, what? You know, because when you've worked all your life, this happened to my brother, where my oldest brother, when he, you know, unfortunately started to suffer from senile dementia, he had to go into a home, but it had to be paid for. You know, it was a worry with how was this home going to be paid for? But if he would have been on benefits, it would have been paid for. You know, so there's so many things. I believe in the benefit system. Don't get me wrong. The benefit system was invented to get people through hard times. Because before the benefit system was brought in the UK, people would go in the workhouse. My dad would tell me stories of people who went into the workhouse. That was my dad's biggest fear, to end up in the workhouse, because in his generation, that's where people ended up. If they couldn't afford to pay their rent, they lost their job, they went through hard times, they'd end up in the workhouse. So it was an obsession, you know, get your own home, get homes fit for heroes to live in. That's what they had to provide for people when they came home from the Second World War. Like my dad, who fought in the Second World War, actually fought in it, not people bleating on ages ago, even now about it, they've never fought anything. They've never fought the way out of a paper bag, but they sort of like, you know, cling on to it. My dad did not fight for a society of elite twonks, like, you know. Anyway, God, I'm going off on a political rant here. I don't want to do that. My dad fought for socialism. Now socialism is a dirty word, but that's what my dad fought for. Because before people like my dad went into the war, you would end up in the workhouse in the Second World War. You would end up in the workhouse if you're going through hard times. Children were being sold in Manchester, being sold for slavery, really. British children. My dad remembered that. That was in my dad's living memory. So he fought in the Second World War for a better society and against fascism, of course. And then he came out of the war. He voted for the Labour Party, as most servicemen did. Didn't vote for Winston Churchill. Winston Churchill lost the first election after the war, because the servicemen were angry, because he said that anyone who voted for the Socialist Party was a communist. Anyway, so I forgot why I started talking. It's your fault, Heather. So you got me on a political rant. But yeah, so like these WASPI women, they worked, paid their taxes, where did their taxes go? They deserve the compensation that they're due. They shouldn't be forgotten like that, because I think once you get older as well, governments forget about you a little bit, don't they? I don't know who the governments are serving at the moment. I do think Keir Starmer will be a better prime minister than the last ones, but still, I'm not quite sure where he's going at the moment, but he's probably he's not been prime minister for very long. That's the only benefit I can give him, really. Yeah. No, some people are not on benefits through choice. I agree, Laurie. Benefits are supposed to be there to support people when they're in need, aren't they? But some people do make a choice to go on benefits. And some governments, like I think the previous government, did encourage people to go on benefits. The thing is, if you give people a minimum, they'll sort of shut up, if you like. It's like if you give them, how can I put it? If people have aspirations, some people can't work. I'm not talking about people who can't work, who are on benefits through lack of choice. But there are jobs that people could do, and now we haven't got enough people to fill jobs because we got rid of the Eastern Europeans. After Brexit, they can't be in Britain anymore, and they were the ones that were doing the jobs that were badly paid. So look, I know what you're saying, but I know a lot of British people who won't get out of bed for the money that they get paid, because it's better for them to stay on benefits. They earn more on benefits than they would if they went to work. There are a lot of people like that. You can't, it's just the way it is, and I don't blame them. I mean, if you're earning £200 a week on benefits and having your rent paid, why would you go and get a job that maybe you might earn £300 a week, but then you've got to pay your rent, which is £500 or a month or whatever? So it's a big. It's a big question, that a question we can't answer quickly in a video, is it? But I would, and also work, it's not just about going to work and earning money and getting off benefits, is there? There's a pride in work. Finding something that you can do. You don't have to, not everybody can do everything, but there's got to be something that people can do. Wouldn't that make people feel better, being constructive members of society? Do people really enjoy being on benefits? I don't know. I would hate to be on benefits. I'm not saying I've never been on benefits. I have. But to me, benefits are a stopgap when you need help, because you've had a baby, or you're in between jobs, or you're ill, or whatever. The benefits should be there. Benefits should always be there, in my opinion. Benefits are the mark of a good society, because nobody should go without money, and nobody should not have a roof over their head, as far as I can see. But you've got to be careful of people taking advantage, because some people do, unfortunately. I used to work at the Social Security office many years ago. I've seen it. I've seen people who I've seen everything. I've seen people who were distraught about not working, desperate to find a job, wanted to work, a bit like the give us a job, sort of the boys from the black stuff, because in the Thatcher era, when I worked at Social Security, she created unemployment. Oh God, we could really get into a political. I'm not going to go there with Mrs. Thatcher, but I worked at the Social Security office, and I saw what she got up to, the manipulation of the figures and everything, because I was sort of part of it by virtue of working for the civil service at the time. Terrible what Mrs. Thatcher did, to be honest. Oh, let me just go back and see if Gisèle's spoken. Just before I go. Maybe she hasn't spoken yet, don't know. We've got her lawyer has spoken. Let's have a look at that. And then I've got to go because I need to go to the bathroom, to be honest.
Llévate 100 euros con el plan ahorro inteligente de Iberdrola y ahorra cada día con energía renovable. Me encanta.
With regard to Dominique
It's not Gisèle's lawyer, it's Dominique's lawyer.
Pelicot, 20 years of prison with measures. Monsieur Pelicot has noted this decision, and we have 10 days now to see if he wishes to appeal. No decision has been made on this as yet. As Dominique Pelicot's lawyer, I would like to just say that I hope that it's a good thing for justice that these debates were able to take place in the environment they did. We felt that the necessary respect was given. I am not the lawyer of Mrs. Pelicot. I'd like to just emphasize this. How is your client reacting? The client is showing the same attitude as he has done throughout. He is struck by the period in question, the sentencing period. We, as I say, are going to take the 10 days to digest this, and he's going to think about his future.
Oh, there you go. They're going to take the 10 days to digest it and think about his future. Well, it won't take him long to think about his future, will he? He's, 20 years in prison. Might not seem like a lot, but it'll be a lot for him because he's already in his 70s. So it won't take long to think about your future, Dominique. Take you about 5 seconds. Your future, prison, death. That's it. You know what? He's had a good life. He's had a great time. In those 10 years, had a fabulous time. He should count himself lucky that he's only just got caught now. In his 70s, he's had 70 years of a good life. And he's going to pass his last 20 years in prison. At least he'll have 3 square meals a day and he'll be looked after. I would imagine, I bet French prisons are pretty comfortable. I've just got that feeling. They'll be like Spanish prisons. In Spain, you have conjugal visits. You probably have conjugal, if you find someone stupid enough to marry him, you could probably get him to come in and get his conjugal visits. So, it won't be a hard time. And at his age anyway, at least he's going to be looked after. Angel, I'm sorry to hear that you had a bad experience. That's it. I mean, some people don't care, do they? Some people do not care about whether they're working, not working. Some people work and claim benefits at the same time, don't they? That's the other thing people do. And don't get me wrong, I'm not against that, like a little odd job here and there. If you're on benefits and you're scraping by and you do like a bit of a cash in hand job for 50 quid every now and again or whatever, I'm not against that. Even though it's illegal, I don't care because you don't exactly get loads of money on benefits. But some people do, really play the system. I've seen it when I worked at Social Security years ago. I say you see all sorts of people come through those doors. Some people genuinely looking for work, upset they're not working, hating every minute of being on benefits. My dad was one of those when he got made redundant. He got made redundant and I think he spent about a year without working. Hated it. He hated every minute of it. And then he did get a job and worked at Bupa until he retired. But then you get other people, they just don't get it. They're just working. Maybe they're doing Uber taxis or I don't know, working paint. I mean, doing a little paint job here and there. I'm not talking about. I'm talking about people working, earning a lot of money, but still claiming their benefits. That's not right. That's not like a little aside job here and there. That's different. You know, there are different things. You know, people are always going to work the system, and the people who know how to work the system the best are the ones that have been on benefits maybe forever. You know, we used to call them professional claimants. They would literally come in for an interview and they'd sit in front of you and they'd say, oh, well, according to Article 3, page 57 of the Social Security Benefits Manual, I am entitled to blah, 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 blah. They knew it, and you would get the manual out because, of course, it wasn't on computers then. This is years ago when I was about 19. You'd get the manual out and you'd go through it, and sure enough, on page whatever they said it was, it would have all the details of, you know, what you could claim and how much and when you would do your gyro, and they would know it better than you. They would know it better than you, and they were professional claimants because that's what they did. They did it, their kids did it. When their kids got old enough, they would claim. They never worked officially in their whole life. They never paid taxes. You know, and they're the ones that honestly, it's unbelievable. Oh my God, they sent you £1. That's it, because when you are a genuine person, so when my mum was ill with Alzheimer's, and my dad was looking after her, and we kept saying to him, look, you need to claim the carer's allowance. Oh, no, you know, he hated claiming anything. And we go, no, you are entitled definitely to a carer's allowance for looking after mum. Oh, blah, 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 blah. And we said, right, well, we'll get the forms sorted for you and we'll help you fill them in. Now, he wouldn't know that there's always a right thing to say, because believe me, any forms you ever get from the government that are to do with claiming benefits, don't tell the truth. Just don't tell the absolute truth. You have to embroider it a little bit, because if so, for example, it'll say, how many times in a night do you have to get up with this person? And if you say one, because maybe you're being honest, you have to get up once a night with them. Nah, times it by 3 at least, because they'll go, oh, you only have to get up once a night. That's not. The thing is, those forms are not designed to help you get benefits. They're designed to help you not get benefits, if you like, for them to catch you out. So the point I'm trying to make is people who know the system, not perhaps me. So anyway, we helped my dad with it because we knew he would be honest. Oh God, it feels like I'm saying don't be honest, but you've got to embellish it a little bit. You know, my dad was, well, it killed him in the end. He had a heart attack looking after my mum. It was so stressful for him. So that's how bad it was. But he would, because of his personality and the era that he came from, he wouldn't want to admit the things that were really going on. That if it has something personal about my mum or whatever, he wouldn't want to say that she needed help going to the loo or she needed this, or because that'd be embarrassing for him, because he was a proud man. So we would be saying to him, no, you've got to say that. I mean, sometimes it'd be true, but he just didn't want to say it. Oh, you know, trying to get him to claim what he was entitled to was a nightmare. But then you get other people, they know the system. You know, nobody has to help them with the form. They know exactly what to say to get the maximum benefits, whether it's true or not, they don't care. So sometimes you do have to embellish it a little bit, because you have to know what the right answer is. Oh. Yeah, exactly. Laurie, because then when you look what politicians claim, so this that my dad was trying to claim, I don't know what carers allowance is it won't be loads of money, that's for sure, You look at what politicians claim. They claim for their second house to be heated, their horses' stables to be heated, their parents' house to be heated, their electric bills here, their lunches there, their this, that and the other that they claim for. So whatever the politicians claim for their expenses was in what they claim for maybe in one day would be more than what my dad would have been claiming for in a month, or even 2 months or 3 months. So it wasn't like a massive amount of money. But, you know, people get caught up in that, oh, you know, benefit claimants and stuff like that. But it's the this is what I always say, need to look up and see what they're earning. Because not only what they're earning a massive wage anyway. They also, it's not a very big wage. Well, it's 80 grand a year or whatever it is. I don't know in whose reckoning 80 grand a year is not a big wage. To me, that's a big wage, it's a fucking massive wage. You know, I've never earned anywhere near 80 grand in my life, and I probably never will. You know, certainly not now, because I've not got so much time to go. £80,000 a year is not a wage that most people earn, is it? Most people. But on top of that, so then you've got to remember, not only so it's not even a wage of 80,000, then they probably get a car included, petrol paid for, lunches paid for, their second house expenses paid for, the bar and food, etc. at the Houses of Parliament is, you know, it's subsidised. You know, they get so many extra, they get extra things, they do speeches, or they do this, or they do that. You know, it's disgusting. And they have other jobs as well. So they're the ones that are taking the piss, not... Oh, so BF is terrible, isn't it? Because if, yeah, claiming for their duck ponds to be clean, David. Yeah, of course, we all need our duck ponds clean, don't we? Yeah, the thing is, carers. Oh, no, we're getting going now, aren't we? You know what really they're saying really when they make it like the carers allowance so low, or it's because that what they're saying is those people aren't important enough to pay enough money to look after. But those people, thing is, in a capitalist society, I feel like I'm going back to Marxism now, but I am a little bit of a closet Marxist, because in a capitalist society, if you're not producing, you're not valuable. So they only care about people that are producing. So once somebody, although somebody might have produced for 55 years, like the WASPy women, but once they get to that point where they're not producing anymore, they don't care. They don't care about them. You know, because it's like, well, you know, now you need help and you've contributed for 55 years. Now you need help, but we don't care now, because what you can do about it? Because what are you going to do about it? Because they're just honest, literally, I think governments just say, oh, well, they'll be dead soon. They'll be dead soon. It don't matter. You know, it is a horrible way that they look at things. And so carers allowances, because you're caring for someone who may be elderly or ill, or even young people with problems, you know, disabled people in that. They're not producing anything, so they're not valuable to that kind of society, you know, capitalist society. But anyway, that's my opinion. Yeah, well, I agree, Heather, about Taylor, but you know, Taylor, she is a philanthropist. She gives a lot of money away as well. She does give a lot of money away. I'm not against people making money out of, at least she's making them, you know, she's talented. She writes her own songs. She does her own thing. You know, she's being paid and she gives a lot of money away. I'm not against really people being paid for, you know, what the pleasure that they give to people. Not against that, to be honest, but of course people should pay their, because this is the other thing, rich people should pay their taxes as well. You know, rich people never want to pay their taxes. They always whinge about people doing a bit of benefit fraud or not paying their taxes. Let's face it, if we didn't pay our taxes, it'd be just a drop in the ocean. When rich people don't pay their taxes, that's a massive amount. Why these farmers now all whinging about having to pay inheritance tax? Why shouldn't they pay inheritance tax? Everybody else has to pay inheritance tax. You know, if they're a millionaire farmer and they have to pay inheritance tax, well, that's what everybody else has to pay. Honest to God, my heart is not with them. Let's put it that way. I don't give a toss, to be honest, about farmers paying inheritance tax. They should pay it. Don't care about Jeremy Clarkson, who bought a farm just so he wouldn't have to pay it, because at the time he didn't have to pay it. Now suddenly you do have to pay it, so he's whinging about it. Well, he should have to pay it. You know, you have to pay inheritance tax. I'll have to pay inheritance tax. Well, not me, because I'll be dead. I won't care. But my son will have to pay it. But, you know, why not? You should have to pay inheritance tax. If you've got a farm worth £1 million and you have to pay whatever that is, whatever that tax is, well, why shouldn't you have to pay it? Because my brother had to pay inheritance tax, or his wife had to pay it when he died. And he's got a house, I don't even know how much his house is worth, but, you know, an average, a nice house in Manchester, but not, you know, not millionaires type house, but a nice house in Manchester sort of suburbs. It's probably worth a decent amount of money. She's had to pay inheritance tax. Why shouldn't a millionaire farmer have to pay it? I just don't understand it. But yeah, that's why he bought a farm, so that he wouldn't have to pay inheritance tax. And now he's pissed off because the government has changed the law, and now he will have to pay it. So yeah, stuff the mattress. Yeah. Yeah, they're just hoping for that, Heather. The waspy women, the reason that they're not really doing anything about it is because they're just, it sounds horrible, but it literally is. You know, every year that passes, there'll be one less waspy woman, at least, to worry about. So one less protest. Yeah, it's terrible, isn't it, what they do? Oh, a musical. You're talking about George Michael there. I love George Michael because he was a philanthropist. Now, he earned a lot of money, but he gave a lot of it away. I'm not against people earning a lot of money if they've got a talent, as long as they do something decent with it. Like Elon Musk. Do you know, if all the billionaires in the world got together, they could cure homelessness, resolve homelessness, all these things, but they don't. So Elon Musk, he chooses to spend his money on sending rockets. What you know, that's not sorry, but that's not improving general life of people. If I was a billionaire, I would use my money to improve normal people's lives. Just sometimes people, like coming up to Christmas, they're dreading Christmas. So they can't buy their kids presents, or something terrible happens at Christmas. Well, I'm not talking about emotional things there. I'm talking about financial things. Their car breaks down or something, you know, just as Christmas is coming up, things like that happen. You know, that's who I would help. And, you know, to me, if you're giving little bits of things away to people that mean something, in the time when it means them to them, that you can't put a price on that. You know, you just can't. And doing it quietly, like George, you don't have to be a virtue signaller. And, you know, I know so many people, they're so kind, so generous, and they don't go, you know, saying, no, I've done this and I've done that. They just do it quietly. And George Michael was one of them, wasn't he? He was a philanthropist that did things just quietly, and he made people say, no, don't tell anybody. He didn't want people to know. Didn't want to be I hate virtue signalers. you know, when people come and say, oh, I've given this and I've done that, and you just do it. You don't have to tell anybody, you know. I'm trying to think of, who do I mean by this now? I'm trying to think of someone in particular. I'm not talking about, you know, people in general that I know, mainly talk about famous people, like the King, bloody Charlie boy, and that, oh, he does for charity, what he does for charity. You know, he doesn't, what? Doesn't do anything for charity. Not really. He just puts his name to things or whatever. It doesn't cost him any money. He earns money from charities. A lot of those charities that he promotes, he profits from. And it's like these big CEOs for these big charities that profit from them. I wouldn't give to a big charity, children in need, Save the Children, all these, you know, they have these adverts on the telly, you know, pulling at your heartstrings. Even some of the animal charities and that. I'm not giving money to support some CEO's salary of £250,000 a year. If I want to give money to a charity, I'd rather go to one of my local animal refuges that I know the people that are running it, and I know, you know, they're not like, I mean, they need to earn a wage. I'm not saying not that I don't want them to earn a wage, a normal wage. They've got to live. And they've even having holidays and things like that. I'm not against. What I'm against is them earning a salary of £250,000 a year. I will give money to them, or I will go and give them to individual people that I know. You know, without going into that, it's like I'm saying what I do, and I don't want to do that. But what I'm trying to say is I would never, ever give to a big charity. Whenever it comes to a charity donation, I always look into it. Who is this charity? Who's the CEO? What are they earning? Who am I paying this money to? I'm not paying to prop up people's massive salaries. Yeah, David. Yeah, if you were starving and you knocked on Charlie's door looking for a bit of food, you'd be told to F off. Yeah, you wouldn't get a mince pie, would you? Oh, I've got mince pies in, they're hidden because that's it, Heather. They all gave one, yeah, exactly. Redistribution of wealth. Yeah, talking of redistribution of food, I've got food hidden all over my house at the moment because we're coming up to Christmas, aren't we? So I had a shopping order this morning. It was really more or less the Christmas shopping, wine and bits and pieces and chocolates, and I've had actually some mince pies in for at least 2 weeks, but they've been hidden. My son, I don't even like mince pies. I just eat them at Christmas because it's tradition. I don't, you know, they're not my favourite thing, to be honest. But my son likes them, so they're hidden. The Quality Street, the roses and things, they're all hidden. And I get them out when he's asleep, which is luckily he is nocturnal, so he's asleep most of the day, except for later now when he'll be going to work. That's when I hide them and get a few out and have a little. I do, because I literally, if I have one mince pie, but if I gave my son a box of mince pies now, in about an hour, they'd be gone. So I'm not doing that. So I'll wait, because we've still got a week to go, haven't we? Till Christmas Day is next Wednesday. So. So I've even got the alcohol hidden away now, because since he started working in this bar, suddenly he likes to drink here and there. Never used to drink before, so I'll worry about the alcohol now as well. But before I never had to worry about hiding alcohol, only food. Let's have a rant. Let's get our rant out of the way. So where are we now? Where are we? What day is it? So it's Thursday. It's the 19th. We're going to have the Christmas quiz on Tuesday, on Christmas Eve. That's when we're going to have a Christmas quiz, and I'll be showing all your Christmas things that you've sent in, etc. And I'll probably do a bit of a live on Christmas Day as well. But I think the Christmas quiz and the fun thing will be on Christmas Eve. Where are we now? It's Thursday. So yeah, so between now and sort of Christmas Eve, it'll be just normal videos I'll be doing. I've got a video I want to do about Sebastian Rogers, and I've got loads of videos I want to do. Just so many videos, not enough time. And then all these bloody sentencing things keep coming up, don't they? God, I'm going to need to go to the loo soon, because I've been wanting to go to the bathroom for a little. Oh, she's speaking to the media. Let's see. This is what I've been waiting for, really, is to what Gisèle had to say. So she says she's feeling very emotional, and she's thinking of her children and her grandchildren at this moment. For them, I wanted to put this struggle forward, she says. I'd like to express my deepest gratitude to all the individuals who have supported me through this, with the witness statements and the testimonials. This really gave me strength to come back day after day. And asked by a reporter what her thoughts were on today's sentencing, she said, I respect the courts and I respect the decisions. Well, the thing is, her husband got 20 years. That is the maximum sentence at the moment in France. So they couldn't have given him a bigger sentence. I think some of the sentencing for the others were perhaps not enough, though. It's saying here that French judges have handed down more than 400 years of combined prison sentences. So it's a lot of years when you think of it like that. Oh God, my voice is going as well. But what is a bit scary is that 11 suspects remain unidentified from those videos. So there's 11 men, at least, wandering around out there who haven't been identified, haven't been brought to justice. So 11 remaining unidentified suspects. That's a lot, isn't it? It's a lot. See if I can find it. Maybe if I watch it live, she might be on.
Llévate 100 euros con el plan ahorro inteligente de Iberdrola y ahorra cada día con energía renovable. Me encanta. Con el
Commending her strength. It's quite unbelievable, actually, to watch it. It really is. And alongside her, Siobhan, a strength also shown. I believe, were those her grandchildren next to her that she referenced?
I didn't see the people coming out because I'm obviously outside court, but in court today, I know that her 3 children have been with her 2 sons and her daughter.
I'm just going to leave you with this video. I'm just going to go to the bathroom.
And she did reference the fact that she was being strong for her own children, but also for her 7 grandchildren, and that she wanted to set an example for them, because you've got to remember, at the heart of this story is a family. This horrific story is a family. And someone who was a loved husband and a loved father and a loved grandfather, who spent time going to the football with his grandkids and everyone thought was great, has been unveiled to be this manipulative monster who carried out the most unthinkable crimes on their mother, on their grandmother. And she was underlining in that statement that her role, her key, is to protect that family, that remaining family, not Dominique, and to keep them together. And she said before, after this trial, she doesn't really want to be in the public eye the whole time and doing loads of interviews. She wants to rebuild her life, because for the last 10 years, she lost her health. She's lost her relationship, which turned out to be a horrendous, abusive lie. Her children have lost their father. Her grandchildren have lost their grandfather. And one of her children, her daughter, which we mustn't forget, that in the images found that Dominique Pelicot had, there was some photos of Caroline, his daughter, his grown-up daughter, wearing underwear when she was asleep that she didn't recognize. And she's been haunted now by this fear that perhaps her father drugged and assaulted her. He's always denied it. She's haunted, and she'll never get any answers because he's just denied it. And she her emotion throughout this trial has also been evident. She shouted in the court, you are a liar, you are a liar, when he denied it. And she said, you will die alone in prison like a dog. And I think that's the thing that's really important to remember, that, of course, Gisèle Pelicot has become this figurehead, this hero for many people of a rights movement, but she is also the head of a family, and that's the family now she's focusing on keeping together.
Listen, there's more people talking outside the court. Let's listen into some of this.
The court. I don't want to provoke anybody. When I walk past, I have individuals who are shouting, and we may be all a bit provocative sometimes, aren't we? But when it comes to these debates, I've listened and asked questions. The interpreter apologizes. We've lost the sound from this interview.
It was obviously just the end of some comments from the outside.
I think it's difficult for them to listen to what's being said because it's in French, obviously, so the British reporters and everything, they're always crap at interpreting and whatever. They never seem to have anyone there that can interpret quickly or whatever. It's so embarrassing being British sometimes, because they go to these places and if the people don't speak English, they go to make these reports and everything. If the people don't speak English, they're almost dismissive of them.
We will continue to monitor that and, of course, bring you the key takeaways. Just to recap what we heard there from Gisèle Pelicot moments ago, she began by saying she was very emotional and that this had been a very difficult test for her, but she'd been thinking of her children and her grandchildren. It was for them that she wanted to put the struggle forward. She expressed her deepest gratitude to those who had supported her throughout and given her strength to keep coming back. She listed a number of organizations. She mentioned the journalists that had covered the story with respect. She mentioned her legal team and referencing the fact that she had waived her right to anonymity. She said, when I started, I wanted to ensure society could see what had happened, and I don't regret that. Siobhan Robbins has been covering this story for us throughout. Siobhan, do just recap for us what has unfolded today, of course, culminating there with that extraordinarily brave statement.
No, I agree. She has got a kind face, Angel, and yeah. I hope it makes a difference. I'm going to turn it off now because I think they're just going to repeat over what we've already talked about. Let me. Oh, I've ended up sort of over. There you go. Oh, gosh. So yeah, I think they're just going to go over what's happened now, and we can't hear her speak, of course, because she'd be speaking in French, so they haven't got an interpreter there that can directly translate what she's saying. They can't just show her speaking, unfortunately. But yeah, well, do you know what, Heather? She does look sad. And do you imagine if you suddenly found out tomorrow? I mean, you've been married a long time, haven't you? I think, I don't know. You suddenly found out that the husband that you thought was loving and caring had been a really good husband and father to your children all these years, had been actually drugging you and pimping you out to all your neighbours. I mean, no wonder she feels sad, because I think she did love him. She thought they had a good marriage. I don't know how did this all, let me just see how it all came to light. Because I think was it a doctor? How did it get found out? Oh, that's right. No, she didn't find out. Well, remember what it was, is he got prosecuted for upskirting. He was upskirting. He was out and about upskirting, and the police took his phone off him. and found all these videos. That's how it all came to light. So Gisèle didn't know anything until the police turned up her door and knocked on the door and told her what they'd found and what he'd said and everything. And up to then, she was totally unaware of what had been going on, except she was wondering why she always felt groggy all the time and she had all these gynecological problems. Yeah, that's right, exactly. He was upskirting, and the police looked at his phone, and that's how it got found out. So she didn't find it out. It could still be going on now. Oh, good God, how scary. So if he wasn't such a pervert that he went, there'd be more to this guy, I think. Maybe that's why he's admitted it. And he just wants to get it, because there is. I thought that he might have actually murdered someone. I remember now when I was doing the previous video about him, there is actually someone who they feel like he may have been involved in the murder of a girl, the disappearance and the murder of the girl. So I think her husband, he's just, yes, I admit it, because better for him to get prosecuted for RAPE and these things than other worse things that maybe he might have done, like Red Rum. And it's thought that he has probably. I think he must have done. I can't believe he's got to 72 doing that and he hasn't gone any further. He's off going, off upskirting and doing these are. He hasn't got 72 just doing that. I think he probably has done more things. The trouble is that these kind of people, they like to record things like Stefan Stearns with the Madeleine Soto case. They like to record things for posterity, because they get their rocks off, don't they, basically, by looking at these things over and over again. And they can't bear to delete them. And then in the end, when Stefan Stearns finally deleted them, this guy didn't delete them because he wasn't expecting to be arrested that day for upskirting. But then probably, if he would have got the chance, he probably would have done what Stefan Stearns did, deleted them, or even reset his phone, not realizing or not being aware that once those things are on your phone, at the end of the day, once those things are on your phone, you can't ever delete them, really. You can only destroy the phone, and it's hard to destroy the phone. So this is what I think happened with Richard Allen in the Delphi case. Personally, I think he's 100% certain to have had pictures of those girls on his phone. But of course, that phone was never found. That phone that he was using at the time when it happened, it's never been found. It'll be buried somewhere. I don't think he'll have destroyed it. I think that SIM card or whatever memory card will be buried somewhere, just because he didn't know if he was ever going to be found guilty or not. I don't think they give up these kind of things. Look at Stuart Hazel with Tia Sharp, a very good policeman, a very, a person, I hope he got his commendation, found, when they were searching the house, they found his memory card, didn't they? Tucked in the door frame. It just shows how thorough the police are when they search a property. So this SIM card was tucked in the door frame and they found it. He couldn't bear to burn it or, throw it in because a SIM card is a tiny thing, so it would have been easy to throw away, wouldn't it? He couldn't bear to do that because he wanted those photos of Tia Sharp after what he'd done to her. They get off on it. They're trophies. So, this is it with him. So he's carrying those photos around, videos around with him. So not even hiding him somewhere in a safe or something. I mean, just literally carrying them around with him. And then that day he got caught for upskirting the girl, and that was it. Yeah, Richard. Sorry, David. I wonder what Richard is up to now. But I think he'll have got. I think we will get a confession from Richard Allen again, eventually. I think all that he did at the court was just to try and get off, and now he's realised he's not getting off. Well, we'll get his sentencing before Christmas anyway. He's going to be life without parole, isn't he? Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if one day we see a confession from him. He wanted to confess. I think he genuinely wanted to confess because he's got all these complexities, hasn't he, with religion, and he can't decide. Now he's supposed to have found God, and then he decided no, so he was guilty, then he wasn't guilty, and then he did it, then he didn't do it. Okay, I'm going. Thanks for watching this, and you know what, thanks for not only caring about Gisèle, but thank you for just caring about women, not only the women amongst you, but the men amongst you as well. Thank you so much, because something that we have to remember is not all men are twonks. Sometimes it feels like that, because I need to do some cases of women being twonks, because sometimes it just feels like, oh God, men are this and men are that, and they're not. There are a lot of nice men out there, just not in that village, wherever that happened. What's the name of the village, actually? Because it's a place to avoid. Don't go to Mazan. Oh, it's a village of 6,000 people in France's idyllic southern region of Provence, where Mr. Pelicot would go on bike rides, and she would take Lancôme, their French bulldog, on long walks. And Gisèle said, so it's quite interesting, this actually, she loved Dominique since they met in the early 70s. When I saw that man in a blue jumper, it was love at first sight, she said. I think this is it. This is the thing to remember about Gisèle. She loved Dominique. She loved him. She didn't think he would do those things to her. She loved him. She trusted him. When the police turned up at her door that day to knock on the door and say what he'd been doing, must have been an absolute slap in the face for her. So I'm going to light a candle for her. So this candle, it's not only for Gisèle, it's for any woman that suffered any sort of domestic abuse, and not only any woman, but any man who's suffering, because men do suffer domestic abuse. I know this gets forgotten a little bit, because sometimes, rarely, but it does happen. So for anyone who's suffering any sort of abuse, be it sex abuse, coercive control, domestic abuse of any kind, and especially coming up to Christmas, because these things are amplified, aren't they? People feel especially isolated at Christmas when they're going through these things. All I can say I know it's hard to break away from these sort of things. If you ever want to, you can always send me an email in confidence, and I will at least tell you where to go. I wouldn't ever take a decision for someone as to what they should do, but I can give you advice on what you should do. I can give you phone numbers of who you could contact. Please, 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 if you think you're going through any sort of domestic abuse, man or woman, get some help. And if you don't know where to go for that help, you can always contact me on my email, and in complete confidence. Okay, I'll see you really soon in the next video, and until then, may your God go with you. And thank you, Gisèle. Well, thank you all for watching. Thank you. Please remember to press the like button. But thank you to Gisèle for speaking up for women. Bye.